Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Elephants in the Room. Guys, oh my gosh. Okay, this is a side note, but last night we filmed a music video for David, my boyfriend. If anyone listens to this podcast, you know I'm dating someone named David. But we filmed a music video for him last night, and it was an overnight music video, and so we were there until like 4 a.m. So I didn't go to sleep till like 5:30 a.m. And so I slept in a long time today, and I had my caffeine way too late. But I'm feeling good. I'm alive. I'm good. I'm like getting older, and so I can't handle the late schedules as much as I used to. But we're here, and I'm excited to talk about what we're going to talk about today. Also, if you guys hear Coco in the background chewing on her bone, that's what that noise is, but I love her too much to not let her eat a bone. And she loves me too much to let me film this podcast by myself because she doesn't want to be apart from me. So, okay. So today we are going to be talking about something that my friend actually brought up to me. And it's something that she said to me a long time ago, a couple months ago, and it was something that was like so profound and poetic. And then the other day when I was out to lunch with her and my other friend brought it up, and it made me kind of think about it again and kind of reflect on it. And I just think it's such a cool concept and something that's really real and something that I've definitely gone through and am going through in my life, and flipping it and turning it and changing the pattern in which I've operated out of this in a long time. And so it's something that I wanted to talk about. And I think when I do these episodes, I always want to think about it as if I'm talking to my younger self. I'm talking to the girl who felt so alone, so isolated, so misunderstood, and who is just trying to navigate life. And so we're going to talk about it. Anyway, so this thing that she brought up is that every decision that we make in this life, we make it out of fear or we make it out of love. And it's interesting because I don't really think I understood what that even meant until I started my healing journey and started really deconstructing from not only my religious beliefs, but also just what I had naturally learned and how I had naturally learned to operate in my relationships and in my life and my career growing up. I don't think I really understood what that even meant until I started to peel back those layers and see that so much of what I called love in my life and so many of the loving acts that I did in my relationships and in life and in my religion were really rooted in so much fear, and they weren't really rooted in love. And so let's talk about first, let's talk a little bit about fear. So fear, being driven by anxiety, control, uncertainty, and emotional distress. I don't know if you guys have ever felt like you are in fear of losing a relationship, of being abandoned, of being hurt, a fear of things not working out for you. And I think that it's really sad because I don't think a lot of us realize that deep-rooted fear that we have in our relationships, in our careers, in our lives, it's usually formed by our childhood experiences that shaped the way that we view the world and shaped the way that we view how the world works because of what has happened to us as a child or even in early relationships. And so I think that oftentimes so many of us are living in so much fear, but we just think that it's just us. We just think that that's the way we operate. We just think that that's how life goes. And obviously we live in a very, broken world with a lot of sin and a lot of destruction and a lot of unhealthiness and a lot of toxicity and a lot of pain. And so naturally it is really normal to live in fear, but I don't think that was necessarily how we were designed to live. And I definitely don't think that that's a sustainable way to live or a sustainable way to pursue relationships. So let's talk a little bit about love. So love is driven by trust. acceptance, freedom, and peace. Now, I really had to ask myself this, as I was planning this episode. And I know the answer to it because this is something I've actively worked on and done in therapy, not necessarily focusing exactly on this terminology, but a lot of my deconstruction journey with my faith in the LDS religion to Christianity, and then also starting to heal from my childhood trauma and my wounds there that led me into the type of marriage that I was in. A lot of that has pushed me to look at the way that I make and have made so many fear-based decisions versus what I want to make, which is I want to make decisions based in love and in truth and peace and acceptance and all the things. So are your relationships driven by fear or love? When you really ask yourself that question, you look at your relationships in your life, and not just your relationships with other people, but also your relationships with yourself, your relationship with your career, your relationship with your health, your relationship with all these different things. What are you operating of? Why do you do the things that you do? Why do you wake up and choose to do the things that you do? Is it because you're in fear? Or is it because you're doing it out of a place of love? Love for yourself, love for others, love for the world, whatever it may be. And it's so interesting because love and fear, I feel like, go so much hand in hand, and it's so easy to think that they mean the same thing when in reality, they're completely different. They're complete polar opposites. So obviously I touched on this a little bit, but for me, I think up until, I was 19, and I started going to therapy. And it took many more years after going to therapy to really start uncovering and learning this. But I did everything out of fear. And that doesn't mean that I didn't love the people that I walked in relationship with. That doesn't mean that I didn't love the religion that I was a part of. That doesn't mean that I didn't love myself or my health. In a way, I had love for those things, and I loved those things the best that I could with the knowledge that I had then about love. But also, when I really, really peel back the layers and I look at all of those things in my life, I walked by so much fear. And that fear pushed me into so much people pleasing, so much codependency, so much anxiety. And so to strip back the layers a little bit, obviously, I think a lot of this stems from and traces back to my childhood. And I'm not a therapist, but many therapists will tell you your attachment style is developed like, I think in the first 2 years or something that you're alive. It's very early on. And it's based on how your parents treat you and different things. And so we develop these attachment styles, and that's the way that we see the world. That's the way that we earn love. And that's the way we see to take care of ourselves. And so obviously my attachment wound and attachment style was developed very early on with two addict parents who obviously weren't as involved or as present or took care of me the way that they needed to. And so for me, I learned at a very young age that for me to be able to survive, to take care of myself, and to receive love, I had to do everything right. I had to be super independent. I had to take care of myself. I had to take care of others. And I deeply feared being abandoned and rejected so bad because I never was really chosen. And so for me, that's something I learned very early on. And you would think that that would just shape the way that I saw relationships, but it also shaped the way that I see the world. And that ties into my religion that I grew up in, the LDS religion. I always tell people this, and it's really hard because, again, my heart is to never disrespect or belittle or attack the church necessarily. I mean, the church in a way, I don't feel wrong for speaking truth about what I feel about the church. Now, the people in the church, that's where it's hard for me because I never want those people to feel hurt. I never want those people to feel disrespected because I talk about their religion. So it is a weird gray area and balance there. But in a nutshell, I do believe so much that the LDS religion is such a fear-based religion. It's not a love-based religion. There is a lot of love within the religion and within the people, within the community, but there is so much fear when it comes to your salvation, when it comes to your relationship with the Lord, when it comes to your reputation, the way people view you. Like, it is a very works-based, fear-based religion. And so when I looked at my relationship with God, the way that I kind of deemed and assessed where my relationship with God was when I was in that religion was, am I following all the commandments? Am I following the checklist? If I am following the checklist of things, not only are me and God good because like I'm doing my part, but also people perceive me as good, which means I am of high value. I'm worth it. I'm valuable. I'm seen as good. And so much of the way that I thought that I would receive love and acceptance was through being perfect. Perfect in the religion, perfect in my relationships. And I thought if I do everything right, I will be loved, I will be accepted, and I will not be abandoned. Which none of those things were true. And matter of fact, I was abandoned in many ways, in many relationships and situations. And I also wasn't experiencing true love. And when I think about that time and I think about my relationship with God, I think, did I really love God? Did I really have a relationship with him? And I'll definitely say I didn't have a relationship with him like I do now, but also in a lot of ways, my relationship with God and my relationship with others in a way was transactional. It's almost like if I do all of this for you, and if I do everything right and I overextend myself and I give and I never do anything wrong and I'm always forgiving in all my relationships, you'll have no reason to leave me. You'll have no reason to abandon me. And if I do everything right in the religion, and if I follow all the commandments, and if I do all these things, then you love me, God. You'll love me, God, and you'll bless my life, God. You'll give me a good life. You'll give me what I want. You'll give me security. You'll give me peace. And that's also not true, because what I believe now is that our relationship with God, yes, the choices that we make matter, and if we truly believe in God, our actions and our choices will show it to a certain extent, but also we are so imperfect. And also, just because you do good things doesn't mean you're going to have a good life. Like, life isn't fair, and it's not about like this point system, like this math equation. Like, if I do this, well, then I'm guaranteed this, and this. And that's the way that I viewed the world. And that's the way that I thought I received love, because that's what I was conditioned to believe. And the saddest part of it is deep down, it's because I was craving love and acceptance and security. And ironically, doing all the right things doesn't get you that, because I've said this before and I'll say it again. You can do all the right things in a relationship. You can overextend yourself. You can give. You can always forgive. And that does not mean that relationship is going to work out. That does not mean you'll be loved. That does not mean you'll be valued. That does not mean you won't be abandoned. You can do everything right in your life and things will still not work out. Like, this is not some performance review. That's not what life is. And so, oh my goodness. Yeah, just this whole perception of what love was, the way I loved God, the way I loved others, and the way I loved myself was by works. It was so works-based. And that led me to people-pleasing, codependency, constant anxiety around abandonment. And we've talked a little bit about codependency, but it's excessively relying on others due to fear of rejection or abandonment. And fear-driven behaviors often stem from past trauma and insecure attachments, which we kind of talked about. And here's the sad reality of this fear-based love that we chase after. Excessive caretaking, overextending yourself, doing everything right, being perfect may feel like the most loving thing to do for yourself and in your relationships. Because if you're perfect and you never do anything wrong, then that means you're valuable. And that means that people will perceive you in a good way, but you deserve that, right? Because you're doing everything right. And also in your relationships, it can feel like overextending yourself and people pleasing and doing everything in your power to make the relationship work and to make them feel good and to make them feel safe and to make them happy while ignoring and neglecting your own needs and not actually living in reality and not like having honest conversations. It feels like you're getting this love, right? Because you're trying so hard to control the narrative. And that's what's so sad about fear-based love, is that we try so hard to control the narrative. And if we think that if we do everything right and we overextend ourselves and we give and we're perfect, that nothing will go wrong and we won't actually have to face our biggest fear, which is being abandoned, being rejected, and have things not work out for us. But the saddest thing about that is sometimes things aren't supposed to work out for you. Sometimes the relationship is wrong. Sometimes the person isn't for you. And I'm here to tell you that if you are in a relationship where if you do anything wrong and if you don't overextend yourself and if you don't people please and if you're not codependent, that they won't want you, that the relationship won't work. It's not love. And why would you want such a cheap, fake version of love in your life? That's not real love. That was so hard for me to accept when I started really, really realizing this, is like all these relationships that I tried so hard to grasp control of the outcome of, to prevent myself from being abandoned, to prevent myself from being rejected, to add so much value to the relationship that they would see me as valuable because I didn't truly value myself, to overextend myself so much, to bulldoze my own boundaries, to ignore my own needs, to be able to show up perfectly in those relationships, all to gain this fake version of love. Because this version of love I was seeking wasn't real. Because if you can't show up authentically as yourself, if you can't set boundaries, if you can't ask for what you need without that person walking away, without that person not valuing you, if you feel like you have to be perfect for them, they're not the one for you. They're not the one for you. That's not real love. Real love is two people who don't have it figured out, but will work together to have a healthy, good relationship. But perfection is unrealistic. And also, if you relate to this, which this was me, I spent so much of my life attracting and picking out friends and partners and situations that were just inherently unhealthy and toxic, with people who needed a caretaker, people who needed someone to do everything for them, people who would give them so much forgiveness and would not have boundaries or expectations in a relationship. I would just accept anything in relationships. Like, I would accept anything as long as it meant that they would still love me, that they would still be there. Like, I don't know. It's so sad to think about, but in so many relationships and situations, I accepted like lower than the bare minimum. Family, friends, romantic partners, like so many things, because I was so scared of not being enough. And it's so sad. I know what that feels like, to feel like all you want to be is enough to be chosen. All you want to be is enough to be loved. All you want to be is enough to not be abandoned, to not be rejected. And you would do anything for them. You do anything for them to not walk away. You do anything for them to love you at the expense of yourself, at the expense of your own standards. And you desperately chase this fear-based love. And you try so hard to control the narrative of the relationship by doing everything right and doing everything perfectly because of that deep-rooted fear. But what I'm here to tell you is that's not real love. That's a fake, cheap version of love, and that's not the kind of love you want in your life. And if you have to bend over backwards and people please, and you can't authentically show up as yourself and ask for what you need and have honest conversations, and you have to beg someone to not open the door and walk out, you don't want that type of love in your life. And being rejected and being abandoned is better than staying in a relationship or situation like that. Same thing with work, same thing with friendship, same thing with family members. We accept the worst possible situations and the worst possible relationships because if it means that we won't have nothing, then we'll just take it. Like anything is better than nothing, right? That mindset. No. And when I started going to therapy and I got divorced and I started to set boundaries with my family and actually cut off a lot of my family temporarily, it was so isolating. I was so alone. And I left the religion that I grew up in. I had nothing. I had nothing. I went from having everything I thought I ever wanted and all the security and things that I thought I needed to having nothing. And in some weird, twisted way, because of what I had experienced in my life, I thought that having nothing was worse than having the wrong thing and having something that wasn't even real love. I was chasing this real love, this real acceptance, this real connection, and it wasn't that, And so it's like I thought having something was better than having nothing, and it wasn't until I started going through my single season and being in my season of singleness to really realize actually having nothing is better than having all the wrong things in my life. I'd rather have nothing than have that. I'd rather have nothing than be in an unhealthy relationship. I'd rather have nothing than be in a religion that I don't actually believe is true. I'd rather have nothing than, the friends and the family that only loved me conditionally because I was a member of the church. I'd rather have nothing. And I'm not saying that for all my family and friends, but I did lose closeness in those relationships. Not to say that my family and friends didn't love me when I left the religion and got divorced, but I did lose a level of closeness that I don't think I'll ever get back with a lot of them. A lot of trust that I lost, closeness, respect that I lost. And when I was going to leave the church and get divorced and all the things, it kind of felt like, gosh, so scary to lose everything. It's so scary to have everything ripped from you. And what if I never have anything again? What if I'm never okay? What if? And I knew my relationships would never be the same. I knew that I would never have the same type of relationship with my family, my friends. I knew that I would never have the same type of respect that I had. I knew that it was going to be challenging, but leaving the LDS church and starting to heal from all my childhood trauma and therapy and actually cut off relationships with family members and or set boundaries within them, stand up for myself and walk away from the relationship I was in that I was desperately holding on to for what? That was the first time I made a decision out of love and not fear. Because if I would have made a decision out of fear, I would have stayed in the church because it was comfortable, because it was familiar, because I knew I could receive acceptance and love if I stayed. I would have continued to try to fight for my marriage when it was not a good situation for anyone, and my marriage was over long before it ended. It was over long before it ended. I would have not set boundaries with my family, and I would have continued to let them take advantage of me. And not that it was intentional, but I would have continued to let that unhealthiness and toxicity happen because I was so desperate for connection and love with them. That is what I would have done if I made that decision out of fear. But by the grace of God, I made a decision out of love. Love for myself, love for God, because I knew this is so hard to walk away from this religion. But if I know that it's not right, if I believe that, and I believe that God wants me to stand in truth, I've got to do this for myself and for Him. And I've got to set boundaries with my family for myself, but also for them. Because if I ever actually want to have truly loving relationships with them, it can't go on this way. And I have to let go of this marriage because this isn't a good situation and allow the right type of love to come into my life and or never come in at all. I had to accept that I may never be married again. I may never find someone again. I may be single forever. And I'm always going to have the divorce stamp on me. That was hard to accept. But that was the most loving thing that I could do because it was in truth. It was an acceptance. And it's so sad because fear-based behaviors reflect deep desires for genuine love, safety, and acceptance. But sadly, they never provide true fulfillment or peace. I think that's what's so hard about these fear-based decisions that we make and these fear-based controlling versions of like genuine love that we chase after is that they're so unstable. They're so unstable and they're so unfulfilling because they're not real. They're not real. It's not real. It's not true. And so it gives us this kind of like fake, lush version of it that we can kind of hold on to, but it doesn't actually ever bring us the peace and the joy that true love brings us in our life. And not just in relationships, I mean in anything. And I think I kind of touched on this, but yeah, just like I think we try so hard to prevent people from experiencing pain, especially if we love them. And if we see them doing something that we know is going to hurt them, or if we see them doing something that we know isn't good, we try to control the narrative and we try to overextend ourselves and we try to prevent them from ever experiencing any type of pain because we rather just save them from it. And one of the things I had to accept is that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone fail. Let someone grow. Let someone deal with the consequences of their own actions. We try so hard to outright people's wrongs and to save them from the pain and to say, spare them, I'll take the pain. I won't hold them accountable. I won't set boundaries. I won't get justice for anything that happened to me because I rather hurt than them hurt. No, sometimes actually loving someone means letting them face what they've done, means letting them take accountability for their own actions. And it also means accepting that you have no control over what they do with your boundary. You've no control over what they do with what you do. Like you get to choose, what do I want to do? How do I want to act out of truth and love in this situation? And especially if you're coming out of codependency and people pleasing, it's going to be uncomfortable. They're not going to like it. You're not going to like it. And you have to accept that they have the right to do whatever they want with what you do. And you can't control it. And when we people please, we try so hard to control the narrative. It's really inherently very selfish. We don't think it is because they're all loving things, right? But control is not love. Control is not love. Love is freedom. Love is freedom. Letting go and trusting. It is so hard to go from trying so hard to create love and security and peace and safety to start letting it happen. And what I mean by that is, obviously it's talked about a lot, but like, let go and let God, right? Let go, like let go of the control, trust the universe, trust God, right? For me, it's Jesus. I believe in Jesus, but whatever you believe in, there's a sense of like, what is meant for me will come to me, and what doesn't come for me doesn't matter, right? And that's way harder said than done, especially when you come from walking out of so much fear. It is so hard to throw your hands up and be like, you know what? Whatever happens, happens. But true love allows acceptance or rejection or failure as helpful direction, not catastrophe. Embracing uncertainty builds emotional resilience and trust. So, one of the things that started to shift the way that I made decisions and starting to make more decisions out of love, even if it was more uncomfortable and more hard, was accepting that the right things, the right puzzle pieces in my life won't have to be forced or jimmy rigged in the puzzle. Like, if something's actually right, the puzzle piece will fit. And failure in business, in career, in hobbies, in goals, failure in relationships, whatever it is, we try so hard to avoid pain. We try so hard to avoid fear or rejection, abandonment, failure. We hate those things. But when you shift your perspective to start to realize that failure isn't a bad thing. Failure teaches us things. Failure also points us in the direction of what's actually right and what's actually a good fit. When we fail in something, it feels so defeating, but it's actually good. It's direction. And also, when I look back on my life and everything I failed at, whether it's in business, in relationship, in friendship, in family, in romantic relationships, it has taught me something that has helped me or been a crucial or pivotal piece of knowledge or tool to bring into the next situation, career, relationship that is right for me. If I didn't have all of the building blocks that I've learned through all the failure in my life, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be in the relationship I'm in today. I wouldn't be in this career that I'm in today. It wouldn't be what it was. And so it's like all of that pain, all that failure has actually been able to be used for something good. And thank the Lord. I thank the Lord every day that I worked through some of my childhood trauma and some of my own issues before I walked in this relationship with David. Not to say that I'm not perfect, not to say that we don't have our own issues and our own traumas that collide, but I love him so much, and I'm so thankful that I learned some self-love, some self-respect, and some healthiness before I walked in this relationship, because I wouldn't have wanted to mess this one up, you know? Not to say that you mess relationships up, but like the things you learn help you operate in the things that are right for you. So I think, just acceptance, like true love allows acceptance or rejection as failure, or failure is helpful direction, not catastrophe. So it's like when we lose things, when we fail, it always it feels like a loss. It feels like terrible. But when we look at it and we start to see, oh, if that didn't work out, it's because it wasn't for me. If that didn't work out, maybe there's something that's better fit for me. And we love to hold on to things, but truly when we let go, we see what God has for us. And the things, as much as I hate to say it and be taboo, the things that are meant for you will be for you. And you won't have to show up perfectly. You won't have to do everything right in a relationship with someone who's right for you. You won't have to forego your own boundaries, forego your own needs, ignore who you are to be able to be in the relationship that's right for you, because true love will allow a space for vulnerability, for growth, for conflict. And same thing with friendship, same thing with career, all the things we do in life. Like true love, and when things are right, you won't have to force it to be right. You won't have to force it to work out. It will work out. And there's a Bible verse, 1 John 4:18, perfect love casts out fear. It's interesting because I think in my relationship with God, what I've learned as I've walked in my relationship with Jesus is that truly loving him and fearing him isn't like this scary fear. Oh my gosh, God's so scary. He's so powerful and dangerous. It's being in awe of the fact that he's the creator of the universe, that he's knit every hair on my head. He knows me. He knows the world perfectly well. He has a plan for my life. It's being in awe. I respect him. I'm in fear of him in a way of like, wow. Not in a way of I'm in so much fear of punishment and of not being loved and all these things. Yeah, I think it's just so hard. I think it's so easy to operate out of a place of fear. And I think that a lot of us are conditioned to do so. And I think that making decisions out of love is scary because there's a lot of risk involved with that. When we make decisions out of fear, there's a lot more of things that we can control. We can control a lot more of the narrative, and it gives us a false sense of security and it gives us a false sense of peace. But truly making decisions in love takes a lot of trust in yourself, trust in others, and also trust in God, trust in his plan, and also trust in the fact that the things that are meant for you will work out, and the things that aren't meant for you, you don't want them anyways. And it is so easy to get so wrapped up in the fear of losing things and in the fear of rejection and in the fear of failure that we actually hold ourselves back from what's better for us, what's the best for us. We always think when we have something, it's like the best we'll ever get, right? And I think that's a very fear-based mindset, whether it's in relationship or career or friendship or family or anything. It's really easy to feel like this is just the best I'm going to get, and so I've got to hold on to it. And oftentimes we don't realize there's something so much better for us, and not even better for us in an arrogant, cocky way, but there's something better fit for us because we're all so unique. And I think it's sad because, I think that's part of walking in so much fear is that you're so aware, you're always looking for the next bad thing to happen, right? And that's something that I experienced so much in my younger years, and something I even work through now is like whenever something goes good for me, I'm always thinking about when it's going to go bad. It's like, no, good things don't happen to me. Good things don't work out for me. So I have to like expect doom. I have to expect danger. So then I'm operating out of a space of like protecting that from happening, not from being present in the moment and actually being authentic and actually showing up, having faith and trust that if it's for me, it will work out, whatever that is. So, oh my gosh. Yeah, I think just really asking ourselves, like, am I making decisions from fear or genuine love? What fears currently influence my relationship? And what boundaries do I need to establish for healthier relationships? I would encourage you guys to ask yourself those questions. And I think identifying your fear-based behaviors, practicing setting boundaries even though they're uncomfortable. And part of what's so uncomfortable about boundaries is you have no control over what the person does with them, right? trusting outcomes without controlling them. And I just think learning to choose love transforms relationships and promotes genuine peace and connection, because there's nothing more beautiful than something that actually works because it's supposed to, than a relationship that's actually authentic because you both show up authentically as yourself. You ask for your needs, and you're not so obsessed with perfection. You're not so obsessed with the fear of rejection and the fear of being abandoned, because you believe that true love exists. And also, if it is true love, if there's truly love there doesn't need to be fear there. And if things don't work out, maybe they weren't supposed to, And I think allowing a space for imperfection, like I said, and, in relationships, friendships, family relationships, romantic relationships, failure happens all the time. Part of a successful relationship is being in a relationship where you still continue to choose each other and still continue to work through hard things. And same thing with career, same thing with anything. So yeah, I just think it is so challenging and it is so hard, but learning how to start choosing love, what's love? Truth, honesty, vulnerability, like love, perfect love casts out fear, like God says. Embrace authenticity, vulnerability, and just trust that what is for you will be for you. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to do it all right. And you don't have to control the narrative. And yeah, I just think when we make decisions in our lives, whatever they look like, it's like, am I making this decision because I'm scared and I'm trying to control the outcome of something, or trying to prevent pain or failure or abandonment or rejection? Or am I making this decision out of love for the other person, love for myself, love for whatever it is I'm doing? And that changes everything. It changes everything in relationship. It changes everything in career. It's like, why do we do the things that we do? Is it because we're scared to not be enough? Or is it because we love ourselves enough to do something and to be something? I think in my day-to-day, now something I'm starting to just try to do is like, why am I doing this? What's the driving factor behind what I do, right? Why do I wake up and go to the gym? Why do I wake up and open my Bible? Is it because I'm scared God doesn't love me if I don't? Or is it because I love God and want to hear from him? Why do I go to the gym? Is it because I'm scared of not looking good and I want to have and be this unrealistic standard of beauty and I won't like myself if I gain a few pounds? Or is it because I love my body and want it to be healthy and I want to feel good and I want to have long-term health? Do I sit down and record this podcast because I want to feel like I'm somebody and because I want to make money and be successful? And not that those things are inherently bad, but do I do it out of a place of, I have to hustle, I have to do this, and if I don't do this, I'm behind and I'm not enough and my value is put in this? Or do I do it because it's something that I love, it's something that I'm passionate about, and it's also a way that I'm able to, make money and whatever? Does that make sense? Like, I'm losing my train of thought, but like what I'm trying to say is like, there's nothing wrong with desiring to be loved. There's nothing wrong with desiring to be successful. There's nothing wrong with desiring to be seen and valued, but we can't compromise our character. We can't compromise our values. We can't compromise truth to obtain those things in a controlling way. We have to do it with our hands off. We have to be willing to trust. We have to be willing to let things be as they are. And so it's so hard, but I think letting go and letting God, and yes, doing our part. It's like, yes, show up, work hard, It doesn't mean that you just get to do nothing and life's just going to work out for you. No, you need to apply yourself and do the best. But like I said in the last episode, you do your best and you let go of the rest. Show up the way that you can. Be a good partner, be a good friend, be a good family member, be a hard worker, show up in your career, show up in your passion, show up in your hobbies. But don't obsess over it after that. Let it go. Do your best and forget the rest. And that's hard. And this is hard. And this is something I'm learning, but it's just my friend bringing this up really made me think, like, why do I do what I do? Do I do things out of fear? Or do I do things out of love? And let me tell you, the things that I do out of love, like this podcast, I love this. That's why I started this. And I can't not show up authentically with you guys. I have to be myself. When I do it from a place of, this is something that matters to me, this is something I'm excited about, I want to talk about it, I love it, I can show up so authentically. But when I do it out of a place of, I have to be enough, I have to say all the right things, and I have to be like this other person, I have to perform this well, I have to whatever, it's not out of love. And so I just think learning how to do that is so important. And more importantly, the things that I do out of love, the things that do have true, pure love in my life are so much more fulfilling than the things that I do out of fear. So my brain's like not working anymore, but I hope that all made sense. I love you guys so much. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I hope it resonated and you guys understood what I was saying, and I hope that it helps you. You guys know, if you want to support me, you can follow this podcast on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify. You can leave it a rating and review. That helps me a ton. And yeah, if you guys want to listen to any of my old episodes, you can always do that, obviously. But that also helps. So anyways, I love you guys so much. And before I close out this episode, I will say, what elephants are in your room? My name is Nicole, and I'll talk to you guys in 2 weeks.